What is going on, guys? Welcome to our annual live stream here on. Typically, we do this on Twitch. We're bringing it to YouTube this year. Much better platform, in my opinion. But we are kicking things off. We are raising money for our 2024 charitable efforts to continue to bring mental health resources into community centers, conventions, film festivals, music venues, and much more. We're kicking this off with a something that I think is really cool. I am joined by 4 awesome cosplayers. We have a 5th that you guys will get to see later in the stream today. We're going to be talking about cosplay and mental health. So we're kicking this conversation off with exactly that. So I am joined by Jay Jones and Charlie Rocket on here.
Hey.
Hi.
How's it going, everyone?
I am joined by Megamind's apprentice.
Hello.
And I am joined by Muti Vision as well. Oh, his microphone's muted. All right.
Okay.
Now, I got no sound from you. No sound. Are you calling him? All right. No sound.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if he.
Well, I guess it's not quite a live stream without a couple technical difficulties.
How else could it be? Look, that's how you know it's real.
Well, I'll start with you guys. You guys are quite the anomaly on this panel of people. You guys are a couple. You guys create content together. You guys do conventions together. Can you guys talk about how the process of how each of you kind of got into cosplay respectively?
Sure. You want me to start?
Yeah, I mean, as you should.
Again, my name's Charlie Rocket. I've been cosplaying for about 8 or 9 years. I've lost track quite some time ago. But I basically started cosplaying as an outlet and as a hobby because I have the bad habit of making all of my hobbies into work. So I was trying to look for something to do at a very busy time in my life. And I remember just coming across conventions just by walking around downtown during the weekend of one of the bigger conventions in Raleigh and running across cosplayers and being so impressed and so excited and feeling like I found my people or my tribe. And so for the next 2 years, maybe 3, I started going to that convention because I knew when it was. And it started as me just like peeking through the window during the weekend of the convention and hanging out outside and feeling the vibe. Then later it was I'm wearing a graphic t-shirt and some cat ears and I'm inside and bought a ticket and everything and I'm feeling it out. And then I finally felt like maybe I should start cosplaying, like maybe I should actually start this. But as somebody who had a lot of bad experiences trying on costumes just for Halloween, and trying to get them to fit my body type, I was very afraid that I would have a lot of those experiences and it would discourage me from continuing. So I really wanted to learn how to sew and really go the real cosplay route. Like I saw a lot of the bigger cosplayers doing. Like I really just felt like this is something I might be able to figure out. Maybe I can do this. And so I just picked up sewing and I taught myself everything one step at a time. And in addition to that, I decided to actually create my Facebook and Instagram based off of helping cosplayers get to that level that you want to be at. It was kind of like just grow with me. as I figure out this world of cosplay. And so that was my beginning.
What an amazing beginning that is. I didn't have as many years. I still don't, obviously. There's no way I'm catching up. For about the last 4, maybe 5 years. So it's almost like I got my bachelor's degree in this. I started originally in Atlanta, Georgia. There's this group called Punk Black. They do all things like music, gaming, cosplay. And they had an event where it was a music show that was going on that weekend, and they mixed it with cosplay. I went that first night and I said, I felt so upset that I didn't have a costume. Like, I was like, I should have just went full out. And then, so then they had this house party coming up for Halloween. And of course, they got Spirit of Halloween open, things like that. And, I didn't know how to make anything when I started, like nothing at all. So, I went to Spirit of Halloween, and I love Naruto. That was one of those things. Clearly I have a Naruto hoodie on right now. But they had the Akatsuki cloak with the little Itachi accessories and things like this. And at first I was like, all right, if this doesn't look good or doesn't feel good, like, don't feel bad, bro. You try. I looked in the mirror and I was like, yes. Like, this is me now.
It's the moment.
Yeah. And then of course, like, I had that cosplayer moment of walking up to a party, but like, it's 2 blocks away. So for 2 blocks, people have no idea why I'm dressed like this. Because it's not Halloween yet, but it's close. And they're like, okay. And I get to the party, and as soon as someone's like, oh, I love that Itachi, I was like, I did it. I'm home. Like, they saw me. And so ever since then, I've just been moving forward. And that's kind of how I even found her. I was looking for cosplayers or inspiration. And when I found her page, she had over 100 cosplays. Like no cosplay was the same. I scrolled for about 2 minutes and just different, and all of it was good. And next thing you know, here I am.
Slid into them DMs.
Sometimes it works, people. Sometimes it works.
Yeah. Hey, look, but just like with everything else, how they be like, results may vary. Just
Well, at what point in between you guys cosplaying individually did you guys kind of start cosplaying together? Because if you guys follow us on Instagram, you know that when we promoted this with specifically with Bo Peep and Woody, the cosplay that you guys had done, which I thought was phenomenal. I loved.
Thank you.
How did you guys kind of when did you guys kind of start the process of doing couples cosplay?
Almost immediately.
it almost, mainly because one, I needed help, but also she already had such good ideas, and she already kind of had like a list of things that I agreed with because we liked a lot of the same things. And then it sort of worked out. But what really ramped up is we were long distance at first. So I was in Atlanta and she was in North Carolina. And so, I was still trying to find my ground in cosplay. And then I hadn't even been to like a convention yet. So then it was just like at home closet cosplays, things I had that I could just kind of make work. But when we started going to cons, I was like, oh, I need to get like a real costume. And like my first one, she helped me, like, because I didn't know how to do the measurements or anything.
Yeah.
I was Spider-Man and she was Black Cat, and we were doing that was the same weekend as Woody and Bo Peep. But I remember when the Spider-Man suit came in the mail, I'm not gonna lie to you, I was late for work. Like, it came that morning. And I was on time. I saw that package and I literally was like, oh, I'm going to be late because I need to try. I'm not waiting. I had a 12-hour shift. I was like, I'm not waiting till the end of this to see myself as Spider-Man. Stopped, sent pictures.
Yeah.
Made a whole video.
So basically, like, when he first slid into the DMs, he was asking for cosplay advice. And I was telling him where to find really good suits, like Spider-Man suits and things like that, and Zentai suits, that kind of thing. And so by the time he got up to ordering it and like doing his full measurements, we had been talking for a while, and then we had already started like talking, not dating yet, but we had already basically started dating. And so when he got it, like, I was like, cool. So clearly when we go to this convention, I'll just be Black Cat and call it a day. Like,
so you guys kind of caught us at the origin.
Yeah. But at this point, I have over 300 costumes. So anytime he wants to do a certain costume, I probably have the counterpart already.
Nice.
Or one of many. And so it just kind of happened very easily.
Well, I have a lot more questions that I want to ask in like terms of like functionality between the two of you, but we are also joined on this. I guess we lost Moody Vision, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But we're joined by Mega Mind's Apprentice, which, by the way, I love that name.
I know.
Thank you.
Top tier name.
Yeah.
Thank you. I don't know if you want to know the origin of that, but it's actually from a screenwriting I did like a decade ago. I wrote a sequel to Megamind, and I wrote myself into the story, and I become his apprentice, basically.
That's amazing.
So that's where my name comes from.
I love it.
Oh, that's amazing.
And then shortly after, I made the costume. So I actually, yep.
There we go.
Side note, love it. Like, love the costume, by the way. I love Megamind.
That's awesome. Yeah, so kind of can you walk us through how you kind of came into being associated doing cosplay?
Sure. I actually started just like in kind of the cosplay community about 2012 when I first made my Instagram account, which was Megamind's Apprentice since day one. And I was following cosplayers, and I'm like, man, this is so awesome. I loved it. I loved seeing them make their costumes. To name one, Silhouette Cosplay. I don't know if y'all heard of her, but she's amazing. Been following her since day one. She's been a big inspiration to me since day one. I'm just like, no, I'll never be able to do that now. And that's way above my skill. So, a few years go by, and as a birthday present, my parents got me some tickets to Wizard World Con in Raleigh, another Raleigh. When you said Raleigh, I'm like, wait a second.
Yeah, that was my first con as a guest, actually.
Oh wow, that's amazing. That was my first con ever, was in Raleigh.
That's amazing.
So like if you ask me about what you think of GalaxyCon Raleigh, don't ask me because I'm biased on that. Because that was where I had my very first Comic-Con, was Wizard World Raleigh.
Yes.
And I went as the Moment Rose from Doctor Who. I don't know if y'all know who that is.
Yep.
But I went as the Moment Rose, which she's kind of like in these raggy clothes and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So my mom took me to Goodwill and Roses. We found everything at those two stores. Boots, everything. I just had to cut up some sleeves, put some holes in the leggings, and that was basically my first cosplay. I did have a couple things before that, but I won't get into that unless we have time. But so that was my first costume. I'm like, hey, I'm doing it. Wow, I'm doing it. Look at me.
When that barrier drops, it's an amazing moment to be like, oh, I'm not on the other side of it. Like, I'm actually part of the community.
I made that first step, and my dad actually cosplayed as the Ninth Doctor. We found him a big leather jacket. He was carrying around a banana.
Oh, man.
We were the duo.
That's amazing.
So, and it's history from there. So,
yeah.
That's awesome. So with you guys, I know you guys, all three of you kind of alluded to the feeling of like community walking into it. That's one of the things that I love about convention culture, is that there is always such a warming invitation. And so I am nowhere near talented enough to try and cosplay. So I'm always like really kind of jealous with you guys.
Don't sell yourself. That's literally what we all say.
I am currently planning a seasonal something. So
Okay.
Yes.
I'm not selling myself short yet. We'll see if it comes to fruition. I'm gonna test drive it this weekend when we have a con. So
Here we go.
Yes, we're ready.
We'll see. But can you guys talk about kind of like you know, I know Megamind, you had talked about the embrace of the community, kind of like when you first come into it. For you guys as well, can you kind of talk about, expand upon like the first like communal experience that you guys had, and like how that really impacted you know, yourself as an individual and creator?
Oh yeah. So for me, I know I was born in the 80s, so most of my childhood was in the 90s. And at that time, you know, it wasn't cool. It wasn't cool to be nerdy, and it wasn't cool to like all these things, you know. So I was pretty heavily bullied in like high school and middle school and things. And I didn't have a lot of friends. And even going into college, I was like I'm just gonna be myself. Luckily, like I was very true to who I was for a lot of that time. So I was just gonna be myself regardless. Um, but it was difficult, and there wasn't a lot of community feel. And when there was, it was very small. And I will say, especially for people of color, I know that a lot of us kind of had like a closeted nerd moment because that wasn't something that Black people do. And then there wasn't a lot of support from a lot of times family and things like that. Luckily for me, my parents are both very nerdy. They're like Trekkies and
Yes.
watched a lot of Speed Racer and stuff. So I kind of was brought up under their rule. So we always were very nerdy. But going into school, that was very difficult. So then later, fast forward to that first convention I was talking about, it was actually Animazement in Raleigh. I actually was downtown because my grandma was getting married, and during her reception, which was downtown, I ran into those cosplayers, and the sense of community I felt with them immediately was a huge deal to me because one, they were dressed as like characters from Legends of Zelda. And at that time, I had never played a game, but I knew what it was. You know, and like, I feel like there's certain signs where you're like, those are nerds. I'm a nerd. We're best friends now.
Yes.
You know, like, it doesn't matter. I didn't play the game. We all were playing Nintendo, and that's all that matters. And so like I followed them. Like I was like, where are you going? What's going on here? Please tell me everything that's happening. And like going into conventions from there, it always just feels like home. It always just feels like, oh my gosh, my people, they're gonna know what I'm talking about. They're gonna know what my costume is. They're not gonna look at me like I'm a weird person or like, what are you even doing? And I will say that goes even tenfold when we go to BlurredCon. Going to a Black convention feels like home, very much so, because a lot of times we don't have a lot of space in other conventions, or it feels like you're kind of masking in those scenarios. And so then when going to a con like BlurredCon or something like that, it just feels like you can fully be yourself. And that's like on another level of nerddom. You know what I mean? Like it's just one that's like very specific to that group, I guess. But like, it just feels like, oh, I can let my guard down. I can be me. This is where other people will understand me because they have similar struggles. They've had a similar past. They go through similar things and think similar thoughts, and they're going to get me.
Makes sense to me.
Took the words right out of our mouths.
Well, we are joined by Muti Vision.
Can you hear me now?
I can.
Yep.
Tech issues
Okay.
aside.
Yeah, I had to jump on a different computer.
Dang.
Yes, something went awry. I wasn't moving the mouse, and so it went to sleep. And when it came back, and I signed in, it wasn't doing sound anymore.
Oh, no.
man.
Yeah, so even a full reboot didn't bring it back. So
Hey, not for nothing. Love the eagle.
oh yeah, yep. That's my Peacemaker Eagly. So
I love it. Oh man, your Peacemaker cosplay is always great.
oh, thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, so I'm just jumping in here, so I didn't get to hear everything, but
You are right when you're supposed to be.
oh, perfect.
Yeah, can you kind of tell us how you kind of got started into the world of cosplay?
I got into cosplay. Well, I got into costuming just because my kids like things that I like. And so most of that is anime and superheroes and things of that nature. And when they were growing up, you didn't have the access to costumes, high quality costume, or even decent costumes that weren't just plastic with a plastic mask and a rubber band to hold them on. And the kids are like, I don't like that character, and I want to do this person. I want to be somebody from Naruto, and nobody knows that. And I said, well, I think I can make those costumes for you. So I started making them costumes when my son was 3 and my daughter was 6. And I've been making costumes at least annually ever since. When my son got to, he was a junior in high school, we had our first Comic-Con come to Grand Rapids, Michigan. And he's like, hey, Dad, can I go to Comic-Con? I'm like, when is it? No, I'm like, sure. He's like, could you make me a costume for it? I'm like, all right, when is it? Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh no.
How childlike is that?
Yeah, exactly. So we pulled off a costume based off of Black Butler overnight. I found one of my suits and I pinned it up so that it would fit him, and then spray painted a bunch of plastic-ware silver and drew a pentagram or whatever it was on his hand, and he was pretty well ready to go. After that, and we spent the day there. Actually, the town didn't even expect it to be as big as it was. It was so big that the line outside went down the road about a mile and a half, and then they had to cut off how many people they were letting in, and then they opened it back up a couple hours later. But after that, and then the following year, we went a little more elaborate on his costumes. But the night before that one, I decided we have more fun dressed up than we do just walking around the con. Well, we can enjoy everything at a con, and I can go to any con and have a ball, but in about 3 or 4 hours, I've seen everything I want to see. But I'm like, all these people in costume, they seem to be having a whole lot more fun than I am right now. Even though I'm enjoying what I've seen everything I need to. So then I decided the night before, once again, that I wanted to be in costume as well as my son.
That's your lucky night.
Yeah. So overnight, I started as soon as I completed everything on his, which was about 10 p.m. I worked until about 5 a.m. throwing something together for myself. And once I did that, and I went to the con, and everybody was taking my picture, and it just turned it into a completely different experience. And so from that point on, which this October will make 10 years of doing cosplay.
Nice.
There you go.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I've been doing it ever since. But each year I was only planning on maybe 1 or 2 costumes, 1 or 2 cons, and that has exploded. On average, for the last 6 years, the last 3 years, minus the pandemic, I'm averaging at least 1 con a month. So during the summer, it's 1 a week, but then there's a couple of months in there that I don't get to go to a con at all. So this year and last year, 1 a month. The years before that, it was maybe 6 to 8 cons a year. But I'm making at least 3 cosplays a year. I have no clue what I'm doing next year, but this year was my Apocalypse, and actually I don't know what else I did this year. Everything runs together now. But
I feel that.
oh yeah, I did the Beauty and the Beast, and I also did the werewolf. The werewolf from what is it? Soul Eater. So that was Free the Immortal Werewolf. So those were the 3 that I built this year. But when I started doing cosplay, I thought it was going to be one of those things where it was going to be a judgmental thing for anybody outside of cons. I'm older and going to family events, and they realize that this adult male, this is all he does as his hobby. What's going on here? Well, before that, I was collecting movies, and then before that, I was collecting action figures. So they should have known. But first, it was, well, your wife doesn't seem to mind it, so that's all right. But then they started seeing what I was doing, and then that kind of amazed them and said, "Wow, I can't believe you did that." And then my wife would tell them the process of how it would take place. Like this table will expand into a giant square, and when I show up with it, it's as big as it can be. Back then we had a 10-foot long table, and I would just cover it with foam, the EVA foam, the floor matting foam, tape glue, and a couple of knives. And she'd look at it wondering, why is all this in my house? I can't even eat dinner at the table. I said, be real, we don't eat at the table anyway. We eat over on the couch watching TV. So don't worry about it. And sure enough, 2 weeks later, I'd have a costume, and it would be extremely elaborate. And I wasn't working from patterns. I was working from myself, just drawing the things out and covering things with tape and drawing the image on there and then cutting it out. So I was making patterns as I went along. So no 2 costumes I ever made were the same. I have not, the only time I've repeated the process over and over again was when I finally made some masks for the pandemic that I could sell or give away to friends or whatever. But everything else, it's from scratch. And so each costume that I've made for the last 10 years, every single one of them, I try to learn something new and put that into the costume.
Wow.
So it might be something as simple as I finally decided to sew it, or I finally decided to add some LEDs, or something of that nature. Or I finally decided to do a cross. What is it? What do they call it? Crossplay. Yeah, that's what it's called. Yeah. So
but what a cool bag to have, though.
Right.
Yeah, so every single one, or I'm on stilts this time, or I need to build my own stilts this time, or the Gladiator Hulk was the one that seemed to get me a lot of recognition before I even moved here to North Carolina. I didn't realize how many people had seen that online or what have you, but the process for that one was 6 months, and everything I built, it was a chore, but I looked at it as each little piece was a separate project. But even that was overwhelming. But that's when the cosplay community really came together for me and made me realize how much of a tight-knit group this was, because I was trying to figure out, how am I going to make this Gladiator Hulk? So I went online and I started seeing other people who had made a Gladiator Hulk, who had made the pieces of armor. And I found this girl, I think she lives up in Seattle, or maybe she lives in Canada, and she just was down in Seattle for the time or whatever for a con. But she had made a Gladiator Hulk costume built for her. So she just painted her skin green, but all of the pieces were so intricate, the detailing on each one of those pieces. And I'm looking at her Gladiator Hulk, and I'm like, this is so overwhelming. But I found out she did make it with EVA foam. So I sent her a message and I asked her, I'm just trying to understand how you were able to get the foam to curve the way you did. I'm trying to make a Gladiator Hulk. I'm trying to make it actual size. And so everything seems overwhelming to me. So I thought she might just send me a little message or something, maybe a picture or two. But no, she went ahead and she took every single piece, whether it was a leg armor, chest armor, the helmet, and she made a 30-second video on each one of those pieces explaining to me everything about it and sent that to me. And I'm like, I don't know this girl from anyone. And she took the time to make basically 8 videos for me. All of them about 30 seconds or so. They explained this to me. And she didn't need to do that at all. But it was because she wanted to share the knowledge for other people in the community so that they could grow as well. And I was extremely appreciative of her. And then whenever anybody else asked me how I would do something, I just remember that. And I try to share that knowledge to the next person. I try to help them learn so that they feel comfortable, because there's a lot of guys and girls younger who want to get into it, but are nervous about it. They're overwhelmed by it. They just want to be their character. They just want to have a little fun, but they don't know where to start. And so when I see them at the cons and I'm giving out my business cards, those business cards are going out there just for people to have a connection to somebody who's done it before, because I'm not selling anything. So the business cards aren't doing anything except for me spreading word of mouth and sharing my pictures, and then hopefully sharing some knowledge on the stuff that I was doing. So that's been my whole growth. And with me doing it for the last 10 years, that's what I try to stick with, sharing that. And now I'm sharing other things. Like if you look at some of my old stuff, at one point I was Maui. It's because I had the body type of Maui. But between that and then the Gladiator Hulk and me seeing myself for the first time, realizing that's not the image that I had in my head of what I look like, that's when I made a change. And so then I had started doing fitness. And so I wrapped fitness and cosplay in together. And I share that with others on my page. I also had created a, what do I call it? On Facebook, I call it father figure fitness, because a lot of these people, I didn't want to do the dad bod thing. Plus it's been done before. Dad bods is you're settled. You're happy with the way you're looking. You don't need to do anything else. You've made it to that level. But father figure is you're trying to prepare yourself for the next generation. You want to be a father figure to someone else. So you want to be in better shape. And so that's why I created Father Figure Fitness. And I have a few following. And we try to keep it with men who are our fathers. And we want to see how they're living their lives with their kids, or men who want to be fathers and they want to be better prepared when they're walking into that, from a fitness standpoint, from a knowledge standpoint of I've got this teenage kid. He just doesn't want to do anything. What do you guys do to get together? How do you guys get them out of their rut or whatever? And so we try to bring it together that way. But because I created the page, I always wrap in the cosplay and all the events from the cons and everything, because that's been the one thing that's been a constant for me over the last 10 years to help keep me focused. So I gave you a lot there. I hope that's what you wanted to hear.
Well, that also like catches up on the other thing that we were talking about, is the sense of like community and like what it's been to experience that. And so like Mega Minds, what would you kind of talk about in terms of like community and camaraderie and welcoming?
Oh gosh. Yeah, I feel like y'all covered a lot of it, but I'll just piggyback on a couple things. I feel like I live for cons, because when I go to them, I feel like I'm at home. It's like my second home. It's where everyone that thinks like I do is there. You can make instant friends. When you see someone in a costume of a character you recognize, it's like instant friends.
Right. Facts.
Yeah, and going to like panels for certain themes and stuff, you're surrounded by the people who love the same thing you do, and it's just a surreal feeling for me, and I just love that. So yeah.
I like that. That makes a lot of sense.
All right, let's jump into like the mental health aspect of this though, because mental health, I think, is one of the things that, you know, for better or for worse, when we talk about community, you know, it has those both the positive reinforcements like we've been talking about, but it also has like some of the negative ones that like you know, Moody kind of hinted at with, you know, being like judgment, or like, you know, kind of like even some of the things that you talked about, Charlie, with being uh you know, bullying and stuff kind of like that. How has cosplay as a whole really allowed your mental health to benefit?
I can start with this one. Uh, there is nothing like going into a room of like-minded people, no matter what the genre is, no matter, we're all under the same umbrella, we're all here for the same purpose, and it's everybody's there because they want to be there. Like, so whatever the fandom is, whatever the costume is, whether it's gaming, whether it's cosplay, you might just like to collect things. Like, there are pin collectors and people who come play board games and just, you know, that's their annual meetup. All of those people are there for a good and positive reason. And it's like when you go to cons and stuff, the energy there is almost like going home. Like when I was a kid and when I was growing up, I used to look forward to the holidays because I know me and all my cousins would meet up at somebody's house and we're playing Mortal Kombat, we're playing Tekken, we're playing Super Smash, we're playing Mario Party. Like, you look forward to it. You know, you practice, you do all these things because when you see them, you know it's going down. Cons feel just like that in the same positive kind of way. It's like, oh, I knew they were gonna wear that. Like, we got to do a group cosplay. Or for me, I love panels, and I love speaking on mental health because I know, just like a lot of other people, I definitely have my bad brain days, is what I call them. And you know, my, like, it goes up and down. So I have days where I'm really low, and then I have days where I'm really high. But even with cosplay and with everything else, it keeps me so level. And if I need a break, it's not a community where anybody's like, oh no, but you're supposed to be at this thing on Friday wearing this thing. Like, and there's outliers in everything. So of course there are some people that do that, but it's, the number is so low. It's more people like, oh, just take care of yourself. Like, work on what you need to work on. We'll be here for you. And then they actually are. It's one thing to say it, but there's a very big, like, communal aspect to this that really helps with mental health, because there are a lot of people that come from backgrounds that this might be the only thing they know as family. Like, when you meet up with people however many times out of the year, or, you know, you have these certain plans, and that's good for your mental health, just to have something to look forward to. Because, you know, like, moving around without purpose, it kind of sucks. And be able to have a good purpose, and then to have it tie into like an interest that you do, or a show you like, or a game you play, and then to get people from all different places that want to come and do that specific thing with you, it's a game changer. Definitely good for your mental health.
Yeah, for sure. I gotta say, like, also sometimes conventions are the only times you see those friends. You know what I mean? We're in North Carolina, but we're in Raleigh, and in Raleigh, we don't have like a ton of people out here who are cosplaying with us, but there are people in other parts of North Carolina.
Yeah.
But that can be a couple hours to drive or something like that. So sometimes when you go to these conventions, you know everybody's going to be there. Or a lot of times we travel to like to Maryland or to Atlanta or something like that. I have family there. He has people in Atlanta, things like that. You're gonna find, like, not only are you bringing in other friends who may not be as nerdy and you're bringing them to another place, but also the nerdy friends who are coming from other states, other places. These might be the only times you see them. And I know I talked earlier about how growing up, I didn't have a lot of friends because of my fandom. And so it's very healing to have a ton of friends because of your fandom later on in life. You know what I mean? Like, oh, now that people are figuring stuff out and figuring out who they are and really embodying who that is, they're here. You know what I mean? We all meet up here at the intersection.
You're like in the last horse crosses the finish line.
Exactly. But you're finding these people who have the similar experiences as you, who grew up the same way and things like that, and who thought they were alone. And you're seeing that you're not alone at all. And you're able to experience that however many times you feel like going to a con. And then even outside of conventions, cosplay gives you that as well, even at home or by yourself, or if you and just a couple friends want to cosplay or get together. There's been times we schedule a photo shoot or something with some friends, and that's the best time of our life. You know what I mean? And also just embodying those characters can also help so much with your mental health. I know that it helped me with my confidence. It helps me with depression to get up and to put my makeup on and to put on that face. And especially, I always use Catwoman as an example. She was one of my first costumes because Selena Kyle is one of my all-time favorite characters. But when I put on Catwoman, I don't feel like I'm depressed. I don't feel like whatever I was thinking before about myself is not what I'm thinking anymore. I'm not thinking like, oh, why do you do this? You know what I mean? No, now I'm Catwoman, and now I'm smoking hot, and I'm gonna go steal some jewels. No, but like,
I was like, what was that last thing?
Right. No, but I feel like I'm like embodying this thing that I don't often get to be as a mom and as just a woman walking around. You don't feel like it's a burden on you. You don't feel like, oh, now all these creepy people are going to say creepy things to me. No, I feel like I'm embodying that and taking that back for myself. I'm doing this for me. And then if creepy people say stuff, then I got to be Selena Kyle and be a badass and do something about it. You know what I mean? And you don't feel that way anymore. It like really empowers you in a lot of ways.
Absolutely.
A lot to say.
Again, took the words out of her mouth.
I was just thinking about during the pandemic and being yourself. And during the pandemic, I had made a lot of different masks. I made a Venom mask. I made a Bane mask. And I actually made my Bane costume during that time frame. But it was wintertime. And so you got to wear a mask, and it's winter. And so I just toss on the Bane coat and I toss on the Bane headpiece. And I just go out to the stores, the grocery stores or whatever, walking around as Bane.
Yeah.
And I didn't even... I had gotten to the point where it didn't even click that I was in costume because of the whole pandemic and the mask thing. And I was wondering why people were staring at me. And then a few people asked for pictures, and that's when I realized what was going on. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot I'm walking around as Bane. But it's something about putting on the costume, putting on the makeup, putting on the mask, and then all of a sudden your persona just connects. I put on Pennywise and I pop in those teeth, and all of a sudden my voice goes up a few octaves, and I start to slur my words, and I turn into Pennywise. I put on the Bane mask, and it covers up, and as soon as it goes over, I start talking like Bane. It just kicks in, and I don't even realize that I'm doing it sometimes. In fact, that was one of the things my wife pointed out to me during the pandemic when we started walking around, when you finally got back out in the public, but you're still wearing masks. And we go to the park and we'd be walking around, and people would walk by and they'd say hi. And my response to them was, hello. Like I was Pennywise. And my wife's like, why are you still on that Pennywise? I'm like, I don't even realize I'm doing it. But it was also funny at the beginning of the pandemic when people weren't sure, should we wear a mask? Shouldn't we wear a mask? I'm already wearing a mask day one. And my wife was so used to seeing me in a mask all the time that we're out in public walking around, and she's like, man, people aren't all that friendly. Why are they stepping back? And then she turns over and looks at me like, oh, I forget who I'm walking around with. So yeah, I enjoy being in costume, whether it's at a con, whether it's in cosplay or at a photo shoot, just to go out, because it allows me to have a level of confidence that I might not have had walking into the room a moment before. And I don't have to act out and be like, one of the cosplays that I hate the most or at least I did until I met a few of them, were Deadpools. Because it seems like as soon as people put on a Deadpool costume, they think they're the funniest person in the world, and they will do some of the most annoying things to anybody, and they think they can get away with it because
like, I'm just breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah, I'm like, no, you're not.
No, you're not.
But when I put on a cosplay, I don't go into that level of anything, but I do feel a confidence when I walk into a room in that costume where I might not have felt comfortable having people staring at me or anything of that nature. But this has actually even helped me in business. For me to get on something like this to talk to you guys, for me to be a salesman in my company and get up and talk to a room of 50 to 100 people that I know I'm making direct eye contact with. So it's not like a room of thousands so you can kind of block them out. You're seeing the whole room, and yet you're still going to get up there with the confidence to talk about what you need to talk about. It's because I've built that confidence being those characters over the years. And so I'm just not normal unless I'm in a costume. So right now it's uncomfortable for me to see myself right now on this screen without something on. So normally,
if an anime hoodie on,
yeah, I almost changed the sweatshirt to something else. I almost decided to put on one of my pandemic masks. I've got Bane's mask sitting right above me. So I've also got a Batman cowl right above me as well. So I should have just did like John Cena and do every interview dressed as Peacemaker with the helmet and everything.
Oh my goodness!
But if I know I'm doing this ahead of time, but unfortunately we were transitioning right out of the work day, and the fact that I had enough problems. Otherwise, I probably would have been sitting here full costume just to go with it, because
that's when I you contemplated it.
Yeah.
That's where my heart lived.
I should have did Batman just to make sure it's going to fit for tomorrow. So, yeah. But yeah, being in costume, it brings a relaxing thing to my nature. My heart rate just kind of falls in pace. My characters that I choose are based on the personas or personality that I have. So if I'm cranky or whatever, or if I'm feeling like run down, I'll choose a different character. But that character is going to bring me to life. It's going to, or it'll enhance the way I feel. But I feel like, okay, I'm putting on a character now.
Yeah,
I can putting on the Peacemaker and walking into a room. I can just walk in confident and yet say the most irate things to people. Like some people say, "Man, you look good." Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And they're just over here like, he's so good.
Yeah, yeah, I'm killing it. But yeah, that's what I love about being in costume all the time. Cosplay, just working it, and just to be able to take those photos and play around with them, because you feel like I've just been in another world. Look at these photos, and they're amazing. So
I 100% get that. Because to kind of piggyback on what you said about the confidence thing, we all know as cosplayers going to a convention where you might not be the only thing going on. There's always like some business convention with very serious people in suits getting out of something. And here I am at Super Mario with like this pushy thing. And they're just like looking, like they just talked about, I don't know, how to save energy with solar panels and stuff. And I'm just like, hey, hi. Right. Yeah, I'm like, let's go. They're like, hey, are you from that video game? And I'm like, yes, I am from that. And like between doing stuff like that, or like, you know, we all have to eat. I know we've all left a con and gone to like a McDonald's that had nothing to do with the con, and everybody's standing there, or just, you know, just making stuff happen. That gives you a different level of confidence, because you're like, oh yeah, if I wear anything out, I have crazy contacts in, like, oh, I forget that I took all my cosplay off, but I left my contacts in because I'll do it when I get home. And I'm like, why is everybody looking at me like that? And I've got the Sharingan in, and they're all like, so, yeah, I was like, oh yeah, I was like, no, I promise, I dress up.
I promise I'm not possessed.
Yeah, I'm like, where are you going? But between that and doing panels, talking to a room full of people that are specifically there to see you, and then also having people that have never seen you, but they're like, let's see where this goes. It's always fun to have those people that just kind of wander into like a panel room and you're talking, and you see that you're making engagement and that you really like touched on something that matters to them. And now they come back and you see them at a different panel and you're like, I did it. Like I reached who I was trying to reach. I got the message across. But like being in cosplay, like you said, it gives you that thing that you take out like a soft skill into the real world, into other things where it's just, like if I can get up in a room dressed as JoJo from, Jotaro from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, do all these weird poses and then talk to people about, cosplaying on a budget or just any sort of topic, I can go up and talk to anybody about anything. Like you took me serious at my least serious moment.
Yes.
So it kind of builds up some mental thing inside of your head when you go into a other professional setting, like, oh, this is what I actually do. I worked for this. And that's kind of like with cosplay. When you work for it and you do it and you put the repetition, you put the work, there comes like that quiet confidence where, like you said, oh, I should probably try this on for tomorrow. But you, even worst case scenario, you're going to jerry rig something and save the day because you've been in the situation too many times. And it's not like cockiness, that's confidence because that's what you do. And
I got every color duct tape handy.
And that is what I'm talking about. Look, that's what I can count on somebody like that. You act like you've been here before. And that's kind of what cosplay has given me confidence-wise. It gives you sort of the like, oh, we've done this. We've done this on different levels. We've done it in the smallest of spaces. We've done it in like huge stadium-looking things. We've talked to 5 people. We've talked to 500. Like it's a wild ride, but if you give cosplay who you genuinely are, cosplay will always give you something back. It might not be what you expected, but it'll be something that's like worth it.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
Wow, I got after all that, I got nothing. But I'll go ahead and try. So, I feel like cosplay has just carried me through quite a few stages through my life. Back when I first made my Instagram account, I was going through a stage of this chronic depression, fatigue. I was trying to go to a out-of-state college. I had to come home midway through the second term because I got so sick. And so I was just, my confidence level was underground. It was way down. And so it was that like just a few weeks after I got home from that from all of that going on, my mom and dad got me those tickets to that first Comic-Con, and that's when those doors opened. It's
that divine timing.
And so just over the years, I'm not saying that it can fix depression. I guess some people it could, but it definitely improves. It definitely brings you to another stage or phase in healing. Because when I make costumes, I've also got serious like social anxiety and just anxiety in general. And when I work on costumes, when I work on my cosplays, I'm suddenly relaxed. Like it calms me down just to sit down and Dremel foam or sit down and cut out some fabric, start pinning it. I might pin myself, but it's relaxing, And so, when I put on a costume, it's like y'all were saying, it's that confidence, especially when you're doing more confident characters. I've done like Book 1 Zuko, that I think that's when I started doing like more confident characters, I started seeing my confidence level go up. And I'm like, wait, what is happening? And I realized that from doing a confident character, like I'm not trying to get into character. It just it gives me that confidence that I otherwise struggle to find outside of the costume, and especially like with Loki, like just on a normal day, nobody notices me. I'm the quiet one. I'm not, you know, I'm back there. I'm very soft spoken, you know, I get over talked a lot. I put on Loki. Everyone notices me.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's like first time I put on Loki, I wasn't expecting that response. And so when I like walked into the room and everyone's just like, whoa, it's Loki. I'm like, what is this? I'm not used to positive feedback.
No.
Right.
Yeah. You're like, I messed up, didn't I?
So, yeah, piggybacking on what y'all said about cosplaying bringing you confidence, especially when you do certain characters that have confidence.
Yes.
And I just throughout my stages of cosplaying, you know, I've seen an improvement on, you know, like social anxiety, depression, and just, you know, anxiety, because when I'm doing what I love, that it's, you know, it all goes away, you know, for even if it's just a moment, it all goes away when you're doing what you love.
And that's worth it.
Yep.
It makes you realize that you've had that confidence the whole time.
Exactly.
Even though it had to come out through another character, that's you.
Exactly.
And don't forget that when you move into the next stage of whatever you're doing in your life, that you had that confidence, like you said, at your silliest when you're in a costume, or at that moment where you don't expect anybody to be paying attention to you. That confidence came out through that character. That confidence came out of you. You can't forget where the source really is. So
yeah. Well, I guess, like, you know, I think this is probably going to take up probably the last half hour we have here. With this being such a growing community, can you guys kind of talk about, like, for anyone watching right now, or anyone that might be watching in archives, like, just kind of you know, like, just the kind of like the place to start, like a good place to kind of start in terms of, like, you know, budget, design, etc.
Well, honestly, the best place to start and the best budget is whatever you have and what you already have. Like, cosplay is cosplay. If you, like I said, my first costume I ever got that I decided to cosplay, I started off with bits and pieces from Spirit of Halloween, and then I added things on. But that cloak got me started, and it gave me that spark. So my thing is, whatever it is that gives you that spark to continue on, do that. I know some people, they might only have, I don't know, a hat from the character, but they know that I have clothes that are the similar color scheme, this, that, and the third. And like you said, when you edit pictures and you put different things in the background, and now, you know, with all these different editing apps, you can put the characters from the show in the background, and people instantly be like, oh, I know that's blah, blah, blah. And boom, you're on your way. And it's just, but don't get me wrong, if you have a bigger budget, you don't have to start there either. Like, there is no shame in buying the supplies yourself. There's a lot of YouTube pages and things like that. And I know you can speak more to like patterns and all of that. She's a pro with all of that stuff. But I think the more, yes, a pro. But seriously, with cosplay, whatever budget you have is enough. And as long as you feel good in the character and you feel like you're that character, you're that character. Like, we can't be canon with all these characters. These characters don't exist. So inherently, the canon part's out. So just do it to the best of your ability and however it makes you happy.
Yeah, facts. I always give people kind of the same advice starting out. The first thing, kind of what Moody said earlier, which is oh snap, and then I lost it as soon as I was about to say it. But I always tell people, now I'm forgetting, I'm losing my whole train of thought. I always tell people to blank. What else go? I really just had like 3 things on the top of my head, and then they all went. That's mom.
Think about them, and I'll hop in here.
That's mom. Yeah,
I can hop in. Well, when I started doing this, I started with the kids' toy boxes. So we basically, over the years, we just collected a bunch of toys, a bunch of different things. And when the kids said, "Hey, I want a costume, or I want to do this, I want to do that," we just looked to see what do we have, whether it's out of your closet, whether it's out of clothes, old clothes that we can rip up, tape up, do whatever. Is it some of my old clothes that we can pin up, tape up, what have you? If you're going to do special guns, do you have some of those fancy water guns or Nerf guns that we can go ahead and spray paint or do something like that? Just to get the start, get the color scheme right on the character. Even if you don't look anything like the character, if you can get the colors right, and if you can be that character, say the lines that character says, at least, then you know other people say, "Oh, you're this person. Oh, you're JoJo." Getting the stance right. Even if you don't have any of the JoJo stuff right, you buy the wrong stuff or whatever. You get a hat and you do the pose, the lean, and all that kind of stuff. All of a sudden, you're JoJo. For other characters, you don't have to worry about getting extremely detailed in anything unless you're part of a cosplay contest. I don't do contests, not because of I don't want to win or I don't want to do this or I'm afraid of losing. It's because costume contests take up a lot of time of a con. And the reason I'm there is to interact with people. So, and it doesn't matter if my costume is on point or it's not. If I'm embodying it, if I feel like I'm the character, then that's all that matters. And you showing that character through whatever work you did will make people want to take a picture of you, even if you don't look anything like the picture, even if you don't look like the character, but they can see the character in you because you just made the character look like you. And that's what I feel that you should be doing as cosplay. You're becoming that person. Yeah. And you're going to have fun being that person. So that's one of the things to start with. Choose characters that you enjoy. Mm-hmm. The only time that I say choose characters outside of what you enjoy necessarily is if you have decided to team up with friends and say, we're going to do a team cosplay. And okay, we did the Ginyu Force, but nobody really wanted to be Grogu, or not Grogu, excuse me. What is his name? The guy who gets his head cut off.
Oh, Gildo.
Nobody wants to be him. But
hey,
but when we made the
can I ask you a question? Were you trying to be Raccoon or Ginyu? Because
I was Raccoon.
I knew it.
There's some pictures out there of me as Raccoon. I made all of the costumes. So I made all of the Saiyan armor. I made the headpieces. And when I got that headpiece right for Gildo, he definitely fell into character and he loved it. He loved every bit of the fact that he ended up getting the short end of the stick, literally. But yeah, we had a ball. We won a contest, a group costume. We took 2 different categories. First was funniest and obviously group, because we came on there and we did the whole routine that they do, the whole posing and everything, and then the music, and then having us all running the stage and stuff. So and that was one of my earlier costumes. And
I'm doing a group with you if you make
all
the costumes.
Wait, also, I was like, hey, if you're ever trying to...
they were kicking out the money, so it didn't matter that I was making it if they're paying for it.
Right.
Yeah, so it's fun. But yeah, did you figure out what you wanted to say?
I did. I wrote it down this time. You know what? I think a lot of people don't believe me when I say I have so much social anxiety because I've done so many panels and whatever else. But then I have moments like these where I can show you guys in person that I clearly do. My mind went blank. But first, I did want to make a point on what Moody said about cosplaying characters you enjoy, because I want to also say that you can enjoy characters for a lot of different reasons, because there's a lot of times I'll cosplay characters from like video games that I don't play necessarily, but I'm very drawn to the art style. I very much like what the artist did with the character, things like that. And so there's a lot of different ways to appreciate characters outside of just like, you have to be an expert at this character. People are going to test your knowledge at any level. Trust me. It could be your favorite thing and they are not going to believe you. They're going to quiz you on, well, what's this person's second cousin's last name? And you're like, what? But so I just wanted to add that also. Cosplay who you want, cosplay who you love, and you can love them for whatever reason. But the first thing I always tell people, now I remember what it is to ask questions. Ask questions. Moody touched on that earlier, and he was talking about reaching out to somebody and not expecting much and getting back a whole lot that helped him out with his costume. That's very similar to when I started cosplaying. I reached out to multiple very big cosplayers who I was fangirling over, who I did not think were going to respond at all. And I got responses from every single one of them. And it was about body paint at the time, because when I first started cosplaying, I thought it was smart to do everything I had no experience in. What if I put it all into one costume and I learned everything? So I had body paint, I had Warbler, I had foam, I had sewing, I had everything in my Gamora costume, and it was her comic book costume and not her movie costume, because the movie hadn't come out yet. But challenge myself to everything. But with that, I got some great advice that I still use to this day. Good makeup brands to use, what to do about making sure body paint stays on and things like that. But full, like you said, full descriptions and explanations and photos and things like that. And I still do that to this day. Of course, I in no way know everything. So whenever I see somebody who has like a similar costume to what I'm going for, or clearly is using similar techniques to what I want to learn, then I just reach out and I ask them. And the worst they could say is no. You know what I mean? And a lot of times they don't. They just tell you, or sometimes they don't see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Never read it.
But I don't know that I've ever received a no. They normally are just like, oh, here's the information. The community wants more people in it. You know what I mean? So they tend to help each other out. But another thing I was going to say is to be creative and not necessarily expensive, because I know a lot of times it might be easier to buy certain things, but there's a lot of ways around buying the expensive stuff. A lot of my first costumes, I used to just walk into like you said, the Goodwill, or like I'd walk into the dollar store or something like that. And I would just look around, have a couple characters in mind, and just look around for shapes, for inspiration, for something. My Black Widow was at Wizard World Raleigh, and that was my first con, and they didn't know that I only had like 2 costumes. So
I got a great piggyback for what you're talking about.
Right. So I quickly made 6 because I thought that's how many somebody would wear to a con if they were a guest. But to do that as a mom and somebody who was very busy and all this other stuff, I had to be creative. So I bought a black cat suit for Catwoman, for Black Widow, you know what I mean? For whoever I want who wears a black cat suit.
There you go.
And then you're just making the accessories.
Mm-hmm.
And for Black Widow, I went into the dollar store, I looked around, and I'm thinking, how can I make this old school Black Widow belt? What are these circles? I don't know how to like make this. And I looked over and I saw a lot of makeup compacts, like for the foundation. And I bought like, I don't know, 7 of them, something like that. I painted them gold. I did the whole like Black Widow symbol on one of them. And I just glued them to elastic. Now it's my belt. I have not changed the belt my entire career, and it's still alive. You know,
That speaks to her craftsmanship.
that's what.
That's my Megamind's Apprentice costume. I made that thing 8 years ago, and I just wore it again to Cosplay World.
Right, exactly. And
It's
like,
still holding.
I tell everyone, most of my costumes are garbage. They're made out of garbage. Okay.
And you never
But
know
it
because it looks so
doesn't matter.
good.
Because my other advice is that if it looks good in a picture, then you're fine.
Yep.
Okay? If you can't see that the seams are messed up and that whatever else is falling apart in the photographs, who can tell you otherwise? Nobody has proof. No one has proof. It sucks.
All you got is that photo, and that photo looks damn good.
It looks amazing. My Vixen costume looked great. But let me tell you how the seam ripped immediately before the photo shoot.
Oh no!
So I had to position myself in other directions. I probably had a bun in the back where you couldn't see it was coming out of the wig. No one needs to know any of that. The necklace was made out of cardboard. Who cares? No one knows.
No one knows.
Speaking your costume being made out of trash, my Juggernaut, literally his head was a trash can. So you know,
now that you say it, I see that is good on you.
Yeah, so you know the kind of the big round ones that just flip right through.
Yes,
that's exactly what it was. I zip tied that part together, and then I cut the hole in the side to put and then I just used foam around the edge to blend into it. So that's how I made the Juggernaut.
That's the creativity though, because realistically for every character, if you choose 3 things that represent that character and add it to your costume, then you are that character. For instance, Harley Quinn looks a million different ways, but if you pick 3 Harley things, if I decided to wear black and red, if I decided to put diamonds on my clothes, and if I had a giant hammer, then you would know who I was.
Yep.
No, even if it wasn't the hammer, if it's the pigtails, if it's whatever, choose 3 random things. You're that person.
I like that. I like
3 random
small,
things.
Whatever. It's the easiest way to be a character. Then you're not spending you're paying your firstborn child or something.
Oh my goodness.
To get like
you're like, I really want to impress people.
Right.
Yeah.
Here is my child.
The amount of you that you put into the costume that makes that costume unique. You know what I mean? That's really what makes costumes impressive, is the you that's in it, you know? Because there's a million great looking Catwomen, you know what I mean? But there's only one that's going to be you.
Yep.
So you just got to make it you. You're unique already.
So I just want to chime in here. So just from the chat, so one of our film festival directors is in the chat. He directed the movie Amy and I, which we'll be playing tomorrow. If you guys are in Hampton, Virginia, we'll be playing that tomorrow during our Haunted Screams panel. So make sure you guys join us. Follow our socials. But he said that he actually did a low budget Halloween costume a few years ago for Gambit, and actually wore it to
I love Gambit.
Wore it to a Dutch Comic-Con. He is also from Europe, so also worth mentioning that. So I thought it's kind of cool that, you know, that's kind of the way that I've always gone with cosplays, because like when I have cosplayed in the past, it's been very resourceful. Like I've done like Fox Mulder from X-Files, because I'm like, well,
the truth is out there.
I got this a couple years ago at like New York Comic-Con.
Yeah.
Hey. Okay.
And I was like, you know what? I have a suit, I have a tie, like let's just go. You know, just kind of being resourceful like that. But it's like a lot of the things that like I really kind of want to do is like it's a lot of time and like energy. And so can you guys talk about the process of like simplifying? You know, I know you had talked about this, Charlie, with like, you know, the cat suit of like, well, here, this is a black cat suit, so now it can represent Black Widow, you know, Black Cat, Catwoman. Like, can you guys talk about the process of like simplifying costumes for like multiple uses?
I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I can do it right in. Let me tell you.
I think like I do that a lot with like shoes and stuff because shoes are so freaking expensive.
Yes.
And that's my tip is to try to multi-use shoes. That'll save you so much money.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I've got
Also, if they're comfortable, because
Yes.
once you find the good shoes, you might want to stick with them. Me, on
Yeah.
the other hand, I'm a little stupid about shoes, so
I understand.
yeah.
Here's one of my tips, especially in fandoms that might have a group that has the same sort of basic thing like the Akatsuki cloak, but all the characters are slightly different. That way, if you get one piece, all you do is add on maybe a different mask, and now you're Toby. Or maybe you paint your face, and then you're Pang. Or maybe you make the shark sword, and now you're Cassandra. You can be a whole bunch of different things. Or like in Demon Slayer, you can get the Demon Slayer like outfit, and then just switch the sword out, switch your hair out, switch your contacts. Like, just find something that you can get a base from that show, especially if it's something that really connects with you and there's multiple characters you want to be. And you can just switch them out.
Yeah, for facts.
Yep, it's just an accessory game at that point.
Yeah.
I'm when I started cosplaying, I had so many things that I wanted to cosplay, and it's always very hard for me to make up my mind. So I keep the list. And it's the longest list of all the characters I want to cosplay. And whenever I get inspired by a character, I add it to the list. And the list is like organized by like sci-fi, comic books, Disney characters, just regular cartoons, something else, different categories so that I can quickly scan through. Because then that way, if I have a con that's a Disney convention, I can go to the list and then just go straight down. These are the characters I like. Because for some reason, I get that like almost like writer's block, but like a mental block when it's time to actually think about what I'm going to do. I'm like, where do I start? You know what I mean?
That happens to me for every con. I'm like, what's my lineup? I don't know what to do.
What am I doing? What am I doing? But
it's like opening your closet and going, I have nothing to wear.
Exactly. And there's like a million things in there. You're like, what will I wear? But the other thing that I like to use the list for is when I'm going to look for materials or trying to condense, like you said, I'm going through the list and saying, how many characters can I get out of this purchase? Is that going to be worth it right now? So like if I'm buying a new wig or something, how many characters can I get out of this wig? Is it just this character? Because is that a smart financial thing for me in this moment? Or is it better to get this other wig that I can wear for like 20 characters? But I can more quickly go through my list than I could go through my head trying to think of that. And then I could easily be like, let me pull every character who has white hair. You know what I mean? And then I can plan to wear a lot of these this upcoming year. You know what I mean? Like I said earlier, a cat suit is always a great thing to have as a woman if you're cosplaying female presenting characters, because there's so many. There are so many.
And also for like materials too. If you do props, I've bought like one roll of 3mm Eva foam, and I made my Loki helmet and scepter and props for like 2 other characters with that one sheet. And it's just like, I could have spent over $1,000 for all of those props that I just spent $6 for a roll of foam for.
Yeah, for sure. Like actually take a chance on yourself, because I was very afraid of props. I was very afraid of props.
Same, especially foam work. Oh my God.
Yes.
Way too long to try foam work.
Yes. And when I actually started with Warbler and went back to foam.
Okay.
And it's weird.
Warbler is so expensive.
It was expensive, but I was like, it looks easier. I paid for what I got, which was still great. But when I first started, like Moody was saying, I wasn't using a lot of patterns and I was making them myself. And it was using quite a lot of my creativity and pushing it. And like I felt good about that, because I made things like my Jafar scepter with the a cobra on top, because I was thinking like, how can I make this? You know, like, but then I go to the dollar store again and I get like a mop or something and I take the handle off and then I just ball up some trash and put it on top and then I cover it in foam and slowly it becomes a cobra. And then you just take some of those little jewels and stick them in for the eyes and it painted all gold. It ended up working. You know what I mean? Everything like ended up working, but it wasn't to the caliber that I wanted. And then eventually creating the patterns and doing the things, it was taking a long time. So then I was like, let me try the way that they are saying on the internet, you know?
I'll finally watch that YouTube video. And
right. And like I went on Etsy and a lot of patterns that I wanted were not as expensive as I thought. They're like $4, $8, you know? And I was like, oh, that's not a lot for me to try something. You know what I mean? And like you said, I had the bulk foam because you think that's going to cost a lot too. But then you have these giant rolls for $12 that last you however long, depending on how much you do. On Moody's level, it might last you like 2 seconds. But
I got my stuff retailer.
You're not planning to be Galactus. You might last you a little bit longer.
You might be okay. But yeah, you get the phone.
No, I see it.
You should.
That's the keeper.
You're giving him ideas.
Right.
I know. Look, now I planted the seed. I just want to see it, bro.
But there's so many like DIY videos on YouTube and things like that, and they're very easy to follow, and you can surprise yourself. You know what I mean? You really can if you give it a shot, because when you're buying the commissions, that's great, and please support artists and things like that. But I also want you to support yourself and rely on yourself and just give it a shot, a little shotty shot. I mean, it only going to cost but so much.
Yeah. Like, worst case scenario, you're out $10. Oh no!
Right.
I wanted to piggyback on your Dollar Tree,
Yeah.
Dollar Tree shopping. My hold on, let me get on the correct side here. My brain bot.
Yes.
Oh,
This is a Christmas tree ornament.
Yes.
I love it.
This is half of an Easter egg.
Yes.
I see it now.
I have one of those in my house right now because I said this is going to be used for something.
You did say
That's
that.
perfect.
And then down here, that's a soup can. That's from a can of soup.
That's
And then
wild.
this, I can't remember the name of, but it's from the auto section. This is all Dollar Tree. We're still in Dollar Tree here. From the auto section, those funnels that have the tube.
Yeah.
Just take the tube off and put some wire in it. And then this is cardboard. All of the metal here is cardboard, and then styrofoam poster board for the crest. So see what you can make from Dollar Tree.
Right, exactly. And also I learned something because I do need something that's very like that tube. And I was like,
I don't know if these $2, but they might.
now I know.
Yep.
So we only have but a few minutes left real quick. So I just want to kind of jump back into like the mental health aspects. You know, you guys talked about like to an extent like favorites, you know, just to kind of sum up what you guys talked about is like it's like in a form of like healthy escapism, just to kind of like be away, kind of like embrace you know, kind of a different crowd or a different culture that, you know, maybe you didn't have the confidence or you know, the wherewithal to kind of do it in your own skin. Just kind of like rapid fire answers with this one is like, how would you guys say that, like, you know, embodying a character has been impactful for your mental health?
Well, when you're a character like Superman or something like a Goku, to where you can have near God levels of power in your mind, you know, because I know we've all we've all looked in the mirror with our cosplays on, and for 0.2 seconds we're like, nah, I'm not that, but for like 2 seconds you're like, I'm really him. Like you feel that. But then also it's more so when you go to cons, especially that have kids and stuff like that, they see you. and they see a normal person embodying something not normal, and it sparks something in their head, and they're like, can I be that too? And then when you're like, not only can you be that, but you're already that. And like, it's one thing to like, there's somebody that I had that came to one of our panels, and he was a younger kid. He was in high school, and he was like, I live in Alabama. Like, nobody does this around here. And it was great to have somebody, he was a younger Black kid that looks like me on this panel telling me I can do whatever, I can be whatever. I said, oh, great. And we always take group pictures at the end of our panels, but we all got together and I said, oh, well, you got to go back to Alabama with this picture and show everybody like that you do this, and this is a big deal, and like, you're a big deal. And, he kept it, and, we exchanged Instagrams, and, I didn't see him for a year or two because, life happens. We go to, what was it, BlurredCon?
Yeah.
I see him again. Of course, now he's shot up because it's in high school. I was like, whoa, I was like, this is not the same kid who I inspired. He's like, oh man, I had to come to your panel. He's like, I miss you. I got to tell you this. Like, he went off to college. Now he's like, not only in the anime club, but he's the president of his own like anime club at his college. He's got friends. He's cosplaying. He was doing a good job then.
Yeah.
And he was just like, man, I just wanted to thank you because, I even felt dumb asking my question at the time then. And he said, you answered it, but you let me come up and we were cool. And for me, there's so many days when I'm like, why do I even do this? Like, my mental health will have me down some days. And I'm like, I can't believe that I wake up some days and I'm like, I'm going to be Goku. And I'm just like hyped. Or like, sometimes it just brings you down because you're like, life happens. You have real life stuff going on. But then to see that you impact people that you may not have talked to in years for the better. And it was just because one day you decided to be a good person and dress up and be confident and instill confidence in them. That makes me do it. That makes me go out to every single one of these events and give my all and be happy and be passionate. And then I pick characters where sometimes I'm Shaggy, where my confidence is in the voice and me being silly. Somebody be like, oh, that's Shaggy from whatever. And I'm like, Zoink Scoops, where I like learn God. And like, everybody's having fun. Like, the confidence was because I did the voice or because I'll act scared or I'll do the face. Confidence comes in different forms. And so being able to reflect different sides of myself, if I'm having a day where I'm not necessarily feeling so good and I don't want attention, maybe I do a cosplay that's not necessarily as attention getting, but if it does, like you said, I can sort of just be more reserved, be quiet. This character doesn't even have a voice, so I can just be like motions. And
I'm
things.
Raven now, right?
Exactly. But and there's a way that you can still do those things confidently.
Mm-hmm. And like Moody said,
it's
coming from yourself.
Yeah,
exactly. All those different things stem from you. So, like, as far as just the mental health aspect of it, I know before I go to a con, I have that moment where I look at all my lineups. I'm like, oh, this is crap. I don't know why. I signed up to do panels. I don't know why I'm going to be in this group when everybody else's cosplay looks amazing. And I don't know why. Like, I just look like hot garbage is what it feels like. But then you get there and you're with your friends and it's not all that. And like Moody said, people stop and ask you for pictures. And as soon as you get in that element, all that washes away. But sometimes even before you leave the room, you'll look at that costume and be like, wait a minute, actually today in this light, in this setting.
In this light.
It was like, oh, it was my house that was making me look crazy.
That's
So I've got to those spots where the lighting is good in the room. And so I don't move from that spot. So everybody take your pictures here.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I ain't moving. I look good.
I saw a video where somebody said put a piece of tape down in your house, like where you get lighting spots for different things. And so then they know. And even though I heard that video 6 months ago, ask me if I did it.
Right.
Same.
I was like, that's great advice, and just scrolled on to something else.
I gotta say, mental health wise, I know a lot of times at the conventions, it can go a lot of ways. I have autism, so there's a lot of times that it could be really overwhelming and overstimulating for sure. And so I go in and out, but I've gotten a lot of advice from other cosplayers who have autism and things like that. And again, you can incorporate the things that you need into your cosplay. I know that there's a lot of people who will be characters who have headphones or a wig that's longer to cover your ears in a lot of instances.
That's me with my Loki helmet that blocks out sound.
I have a friend who cosplayed as Stein from Soul Eater. And he had the crank on the side of the ear, but it's because it covered his ears
Mhm.
and helped him in large crowds and things like that. But on top of that, like you said, I'll cosplay characters who maybe don't talk as much, like Raven or something like that, where I don't have to necessarily be in that mood. But then I also dress as characters like Jinx and Harley Quinn and people like that when I'm just dancing around the con and I'm trying to get my energy up and I'm finding it in that character.
Mhm.
All right, well, we are at time, so I am gonna in the chat. You guys can check out and follow each of these creators on Instagram, other socials that they have. Moody Vision, Mega Mind's Apprentice, Jay Jones, Charlie Rocket. Thank you guys so much for being a part and kicking off our 24-hour fundraising stream. We have Saint of Pine Hills up next. Smash B Cosplays up after that. Then we're kicking off all of our network shows. So Biscazing, Brilliant But Lazy, That's High Praise, our Nicolas Cage podcast, and our friend Zambies.
Okay, yeah.
So make sure you guys stick around because we have a lot of great stuff for you guys coming up. And we'll be right back.
Thanks for having us. You rock.
Thank you. It was fun.
This is so fun. Thanks.
Thank you guys.